All right, let's dive into something pretty fundamental. I'm talking about the two golden rules that basically run all of life on Earth. It's all about how energy flows and how matter cycles. So, to kick things off, let me ask you a question. What could a sunbeam, a deer, and a mushroom possibly have in common? I mean, they seem totally random, right? But believe it or not, they are all intimately connected, all key players in this incredible planet-wide dance. And that dance is choreographed by just two golden rules. These rules are the secret to understanding how everything in nature is connected, from the smallest microbe to the biggest whale. It all comes down to the flow of energy and the recycling of matter. So here they are, laid out plain and simple. First rule, energy flows. It moves in one direction, kind of like a one-way street. Second rule, matter cycles. It gets recycled over and over again in a continuous loop. It never really goes away. These two ideas, one a straight line and one a circle, are the absolute bedrock of every single ecosystem. Okay, let's tackle the first big idea, energy. I want you to picture its journey like a one-way highway. It's got a definite starting point and it's got a definite end. There are no U-turns. So what we call energy flow is really just the movement of power through an ecosystem. And where does pretty much all of that power for life on Earth come from? Yep, the sun. It's our planet's ultimate power source. That incredible solar energy gets passed along what we all know as the food chain. It starts with producers, plants, grabbing that sunlight through photosynthesis. Then along come the primary consumers, herbivores, like a rabbit that munch on those plants. Well, that rabbit then gets eaten by a secondary consumer, say a snake. And this keeps going. And even when things die, decomposers, like fungi, get in on the action, breaking it all down and getting that last little bit of energy. But here's the kicker. This whole energy transfer is incredibly inefficient. In fact, with every single step up that food chain, only about 10% of the energy from the level below actually makes it to the next level. That's it. Just 10%. It's like a really, really leaky battery. So you're probably asking, where in the world does the other 90% go? Well, it gets used up. It's lost as heat while that animal is just living its life, moving around, breathing, hunting, staying warm. This is actually a fundamental law of the universe called the second law of thermodynamics. The energy isn't destroyed, but it scatters into the environment as heat and can't be recaptured by the next organism. It's a one-and-done deal. All right, now let's switch gears and talk about our second major player, matter. If energy is on that one-way highway heading out of town, then matter is on an endless merry-go-round. It is, without a doubt, nature's ultimate recycling program. Matter cycling is all about the journey of the physical stuff, the actual building blocks of life. And unlike energy, this stuff is never lost. Think about this. The very atoms that make up your body right now could have once been part of a T-Rex or a giant redwood tree or even the ancient atmosphere. They just get used over and over and over again, like a giant box of cosmic Legos. Let's look at a few amazing examples to see how this works. We'll start with one of the big ones, the carbon cycle. Let's follow a single invisible carbon atom on its wild ride. So, our carbon atom might be floating around as carbon dioxide in the air. A plant then breathes it in during photosynthesis to build a new leaf. A little while later, a deer comes along and eats that leaf. And then, just by breathing out, that deer releases that same carbon atom right back into the atmosphere. See? It's this beautiful, constant exchange between the air, the plants, and the animals. Okay, next up is a cycle that I bet you're all pretty familiar with, the water cycle. And get this, the same water we're drinking today has been going around and around on this planet for billions of years. Through evaporation, water from oceans and lakes rises up into the atmosphere. It cools down and forms clouds through condensation, and eventually it comes back down to Earth as precipitation, rain or snow. That water then fills our rivers, waters our crops, and starts the entire cycle all over again. Endless. And for our last example, let's touch on the nitrogen cycle. Now, nitrogen might not get as much press, but it's absolutely vital. It's a key ingredient in our proteins and our DNA. Without it, life as we know it simply couldn't exist. Here's the tricky part. Most of the nitrogen on Earth is just a gas in the atmosphere that plants can't use directly. But there were these amazing bacteria in the soil that act like tiny little factories. They can grab that nitrogen gas from the air and fix it, turning it into a form that plants can absorb. And just like that, it enters the food web for all of us. So, now that we've looked at both of these big ideas, let's put them head to head for the ultimate showdown: flow versus cycle. This is where it all really clicks into place. When you see it like this, the difference is just crystal clear. Energy flows in one direction. Its source is external, the sun. It can't be reused, and it's eventually lost as heat. Matter, on the other hand, is completely different. It's cyclical. Its source is right here on Earth, in our soil and atmosphere. It's constantly being recycled and conserved. Nothing is wasted. Okay, so this is all really cool science, but what's the big deal? Why does this actually matter to you and me? Well, it turns out it connects to basically everything, from what you had for lunch to the entire future of our planet. Seriously, just think about the food on your plate. Any meal you eat is only possible because a plant, somewhere, captured the sun's one-way flow of energy, and because the matter, the nutrients, were cycled from the soil to help it grow. You know, when farmers use fertilizers, they're basically just giving that natural nutrient cycle a little boost. And when you look at the big picture, understanding these systems is beyond critical. Human activities, especially burning fossil fuels, are pumping massive amounts of ancient, stored-up carbon back into the atmosphere. We're disrupting a carbon cycle that's been in a delicate balance for billions of years, and we're doing it way too fast for the planet to keep up. So if you take away just one thing, let it be this: energy flows, it does not cycle. Matter cycles, it does not flow away. One is a one-way trip, the other is an endless loop. And you absolutely cannot have life as we know it unless both of these incredible processes are working together perfectly. So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Knowing that energy is always being lost, just a fleeting visitor, but that matter, the very stuff we're made of, is ancient and always being recycled, how does that change the way you see the world? The next time you see a sunbeam, a deer, or a mushroom, I bet you'll know exactly what they have in common.